Good morning, everybody. It's Leah, your digital marketing specialist here at Old Brick. Today I'm looking at sectionals to see if one could fit in my space and how we really figure that out. So I have invited Kelly, our showroom stylist and accessories buyer, to help me out, along with our sales manager, Brian. So they're gonna help me figure out how I can measure a sectional. Good morning, Kelly. Say hello.
Hi, Leah. Hi, everybody.
And then we've got Brian over here.
Hello.
This is the first sectional that we're going to measure. It's a Craft Master sectional. So where do we even get started? Because I have no idea how to measure a sectional.
So what you want to do is start with your room measurements or your space measurements. You want to know how much space you have. So for this piece, we need to measure the length and make sure that that's going to fit on the wall or the space that you have in mind for the sectional. And then we also want to measure this length here as well.
So one of the other things you want to think about too, Kelly, is in the furniture world, everything's as you're looking at it. So in this case, we have a right side facing chaise. So as you're looking at it, the chaise is on the right side, and then the sofa return is on the left side. So keep that in mind as you're kind of playing with measurements. Also, is the configuration is always as you're looking at it.
So when you walk into your room, how do you want to see this piece in the room? Basically is what Brian's saying. What piece might you want what side might you want the chaise on? What side might you want to just be flat against the wall? Those are all things to consider.
Okay.
So we do have measurements on our tags, but you can also bring a tape measure from home, or we have them here. And we measure along the back of the piece the entire length. And what we're doing is we're actually adding the depth of this piece here to the length of this piece here, and that's giving us the entire length. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and because this piece is a right angle, it's probably much easier for people to understand measurements. We'll show you something in a minute that's a little more confusing when you get to the curved corners and how you might kind of take that curve into consideration when you're trying to measure. But in this case, we've got
123.
Very good. So you've got 123 inches, and obviously from that you want to consider walkways and what you might be doing with tables on the ends, perhaps for lighting or whatever the case is. So keep that in mind, and then we'll measure across the back here on this side.
And we've got 95 here.
So this one's pretty straightforward as angles go. You've got 95 by 123 inches, and that's what you want to lay out in your space. The other thing you want to consider is tables. In this case, where you've got the chaise on this side, what are you going to do with a coffee table, perhaps? In this case, Kelly's put together a really nice storage table with this that allows for easy access from every seating element.
When you have a sectional with a chaise, it's often nice to use either a square table or a round table, but one of the most important things is to just make sure you have about 18 inches between your table and where you're going to sit, so that you have room for your legs and to easily get up and down.
Or for your pets to kind of run around if they happen to join you in your room.
Hey friends, we are back here at a curved sectional. So you'll see that curve right where Brian's hand is. I'm not sure how they're gonna measure it. I'm pretty sure they're getting out a curved measuring tape and or ruler. So let's see how they do it.
Did you bring your curved measuring tape, Brian?
Contrary to what Leah may have just thought, there is no such thing as a curved measuring device. So this piece, Kelly and Leah, I think is probably one of the most confusing pieces for people because of the angles. So again, remember in the last section we measured right angles. We'll do the same thing here when you have a curve. Draw a straight line across the back of each side and have it come to a particular point. Now, how do you do that easily? You can actually start on the inside of that arm, Kelly, the frontmost part, and we'll come all the way to the back of this piece here.
So we want to go to the inside of the arm or the outside?
Go the outside of the arm.
Okay.
So by doing this, we're able now to make this piece a right angle and make it easier to measure versus trying to find that magical curved measuring tape that Leah discussed.
And this is a square, so we can assume that it's the same on both sides.
In this case, we've got a console there, so close to a square. Had the console not been there, then we could do the same thing.
So we should measure again then.
You can do the same thing. So if
Yep.
you take that to the outside of that arm there, and we take it to the back of this side, you can get your dimension.
Yep, it is quite a bit shorter. It's about 4 inches shorter.
So curved corner is a little more complicated, but not really. You just have to make the angle work and then measure your space. The benefit of a curved corner is seating. You've got an extra place for somebody to sit down. I think when you're talking about curves, certainly Kelly's put together a nice table group here that is a round table, and it does allow everyone, including your pets, to walk freely around this set.
Okay, so you guys did a great job teaching me how to measure. I'm also curious because I know this is a reclining sectional. So do we need extra space between our sectional and the walls, or can this be right up against the wall?
It's a great question. With reclining furniture, you can actually put it within 2 or 3 inches of the wall. The unit itself is going to move into the room and stay fairly close to that spot on the wall. You do have to consider your coffee table though, and making sure that that's not in the way, or in this case, this particular one's on casters, so it's easily moved. So if reclining is in your consideration, just think in terms of what am I going to do for tables, but you can certainly put it right up against the wall. One of the other things with sectionals you should just think about is generally they're going to be placed in one spot in your room. So when you're measuring your space, think about that space. Sometimes you don't have the option to put it in different places in your room. It'll maximize seating, it gives everybody a place to sit, and they work very, very well.
All right, well, why don't you two take a seat and show us how to recline?
Oh boy.
Do we have to get up afterwards?
I think that's up to Brian.
It is Employee Appreciation Day, so we're just going to sit back and relax today.
Look how smoothly they recline here. Quietly.
So again, this is where you run into a little bit of a trouble
Oh, see that? Yep.
with the coffee table. So
Stop on in. They'll be having a nap.